Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Together We Battle podcast. I am your host, Jessica, and today I would love to welcome back Aimee Lamendola. Hello, Aimee, welcome.
It's so good to be here again.
I am glad to have you back, and I know our listeners will definitely understand using you as a resource for the community as well as be able to find you again. Just to remind all of you, Aimee had done another interview with us, and she is part of the Lending Hearts Foundation, so you can always find her there. We will redirect you with the links and all the things in the body of the interview itself. So as a reminder, Aimee is a wellness professional. She is certified in PART. She is a PART instructor, which is positivity, resilience, and relaxation. And she is also HeartMath certified, and it has a 500 certified yoga instructor. So she is all the goodness. I love it.
Thanks. That's a really warm welcome.
Well, I mean it. What you offer to people is very important, and I love that we can share this outward as we've talked about. So, today we were going to have our focus stay specifically on heart math. I would love for you to share with the listeners. Some of them may or may not know what that means, but if you can give more of an example what heart math is, that would be great.
Sure, sure. Um, HeartMath Institute is a research and educational organization, and they have developed really reliable, very, very useful, portable, research validated tools called HeartMath Skills. So it can be confusing. It's HeartMath, the organization, as well as HeartMath Skills. And these skills are so simple to learn, but they help us decrease our stress response and at the same time actually build our resilience so that we experience more increase or experience more stability, more satisfaction, more peace in our lives. They help us build emotional resilience, and it's done through a really interesting mechanism by creating a synchronization between the heart and the brain. So we think of the heart as a pump or an electrical organ, and we also think of the brain as sending, signals or communication to the heart, which is true. But what many people don't realize is that the heart actually is sending uh, the majority of signals. So when you look at the volume of signals traveling between heart and brain, it's actually 90% afferent going to the brain. And we have some agency over the communication signal that's going from the heart to the brain. So the signal could be chaotic, and that happens when we're experiencing emotions like fear, anger, stress, overwhelm. And that signal is chaotic, and that has an impact on how we feel and our experience. So the heart math techniques are really intended to generate something called heart coherence or cardiac coherence. It's a measurable state where your heart rhythms become smooth. Think of what coherence means: smooth, orderly, predictable. Think of, if we go back to our math days, that if we were to map it out, it's something like a sine wave versus something very chaotic. And that smooth, ordered um, heart coherence signal, it actually calms the nervous system. And when we think about cancer survivors specifically, these techniques are powerful tools because, number one, like I said, they're simple to learn. They can be used anywhere, anytime. They're very portable, but they also help manage the intense emotions and anxiety that come with survivorship, and they build resilience.
Wow, so important. So, can
Yeah,
you
so
explain
simple.
to everybody how this skill can, I guess, go even a little further, how it can relate to resilience itself?
Yeah, so I think it's helpful to do a couple of things before we actually relate it to resilience. It's to really understand that one of the biggest drivers of our physiology is our emotions. So when we're experiencing emotions like frustration, anger, fear, anxiety, overwhelm, that can happen in any day in our lives of everyday life, but certainly through the cancer journey. Those emotions drain our, ultimately depleting resilience. This is based on HeartMath's research. So it's not that when we're going to use these skills that we're ignoring or suppressing any emotions. But HeartMath research shows that our most natural state, by the way, which is very efficient, is one that is grounded, clear minded, and supported by renewing emotions like care, love, kindness, gratitude. And those can get derailed, again, by everyday life, but certainly during a cancer journey. So when we're going like through the cancer journey, it's not about putting on rose-colored glasses, first of all. I really want to make that clear. It's it's having the understanding that our hearts have the capacity to hold both the fear, the uncertainty, the angst, while awakening a parallel experience of love, gratitude, and care. And that builds our resilience and reminds us about balance in life. It does require some effort and some practice through new skills. And so when we think of how that relates to resilience, I love there's no one agreed upon definition, by the way, of like what is resilience or how to build it. But HeartMath has this awesome definition. Resilience is thought of as the ability to bounce back, yes. But there's this fuller definition that says it's a capacity, which means we can grow it, to prepare for, to recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, challenge, or adversity. And I like this definition because it informs us of when to use these new skills and techniques. So we often forget that preparing for stress and recovering from, a lot of us want to use it in the moment, and the HeartMath techniques and tools are very good for that. But we can also use them in preparation for stress because most of us are going to have it, or it could be in preparation for bigger stressors like appointments or scans. But we also take time to recover. So some of these could be actually scheduled into your day, and or they could be used in the moment. But what we know is that building this cardiac coherence has a measurable effect on the autonomic nervous system. It reduces stress hormones. It improves heart rate variability, which is a key marker of resilience. And we experience more emotional composure. We feel more in charge, more grounded. And I should say that HeartMath does, you don't need it, but they do have a little sensor. It's a sensor that measures heart rate variability. So, should you be interested in measuring it and watching the changes that happen as you're building your skills, that's available to you. But again, it's not necessary. So, you're developing this inner resource that's always available to you. Right? You can build resilience even, when you might be facing physical fatigue. And it helps us recover faster, make clearer decisions, sleep better. These are all what the research tells us. My experience of using it is my own life, but also using it with cancer survivors. And HeartMath has a course in a certified coach for their Building Resilience course, which we run through Lending Hearts a couple of times a year in small groups. So we come together for 4 to 5 weeks to learn these techniques.
To go back to the idea of going through all of this and with your studies, but when you can really pause and like just refocus and get your breath under control, you said it. You can make better decisions as needed, and you're not just having a quick reaction to something. You're really responding from a place that is more stable, more calm, more, yes, this actually makes sense. This isn't just a quick judgment call. So, regardless of what hard time either are you currently in one or are you going to face one in the near future and you know nothing about it, like these are actual necessary skills that can really help you get through that. And I know I've done your class with you before, and just with my background in the spa and wellness industry, I understood very clearly the way you integrate kind of science with wellness, and we talk about these things. So it's extremely helpful if people can, okay, I need to be really serious about this. Let me learn how to control my breathing and refocus on what's going to help rewire my mind to make a better judgment and to show up in my day more from a solid foundation, I guess you would say.
Oh, yeah,
Makes a huge difference when dealing with a hard season.
absolutely. Um, because the stress and the uncertainty can be really overwhelming.
Hmm.
It's it it's easy to get stuck in that survival mode and constantly on edge. The mind gets stuck in negative loops, right, of projecting into the future in a negative way as well as ruminating. And the emotions can just feel so overwhelming.
Hmm.
Hearts can feel really heavy, right? You can be heartbroken by everything that's going on during that season. And that is all valid and natural. And we're not, trying to dismiss any of that. I really want to be clear on that. But we can, have develop this skill that creates the potential for a parallel experience that often softens and decreases the overwhelm. So we're complex beings, and the invitation is to experience something that is renewing alongside of whether it's the grief or the anxiety. And we can do that in a way that actually starts to build our resilience and give us a more grounded approach to what we're facing. So, and at the same time, it helps with like sleep and fatigue and decreases the anxiety. It's really powerful.
Yeah,
I get
absolutely.
excited to talk about it. I do. It's just this means more energy, not just to have more energy and rather than letting it drain. And I know it's a lot to ask during the cancer journey, but it's it is something to turn towards when life feels completely out of control. This
Hmm.
is something that you have influence over. It's really empowering.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can speak to that as someone who has experienced and been through that season of life. I incorporated all these wellness practices into that season. Yes, I had it before because of the nature of my job, but I mean, when I really got smacked with this hard season, I was like, okay, what are my resources? How can I implement them in a way that works for me at this time? Because I am more tired. I am not having a normal day. My life is flipped upside down. Everything looks different, but I know
Hmm.
I still need to be able to incorporate these things, and it made a world of a difference. I still had a struggle. I still had to go through all the things associated with the diagnosis and the chemo and everything. But I felt like, especially looking back, and I'm not normally one to look back, I look back to see how far I've come. That's how I measure looking back. So, just to be clear on that, that's really helpful for people too. But
Hmm.
to look back and say, I did handle things from a more calm place. I was able to take the information in and then make a decision or go through what I had to go through from a more level playing field, I guess you would say. I felt I can think back to several circumstances where something came out of left field that was not part of the plan, that had to be, hey, we have to do this and this is necessary and this happened. Whatever it was, which can happen to anybody in life, not just in cancer, but in life. You have to learn to pivot quickly sometimes, and you have unexpected things happen. But again, to go back to these practices of, okay, here we go. And I refocused on my breathing or whatever it was. And it brought me to that space of, all right, I'm okay.
Mhm.
We'll
Yeah,
do this.
be okay. I think you bring up a really good point about all the decisions and information that's coming at us just baseline in our world right now. And then when you add in a seasonal life or the cancer journey where there's more information to take in and process, we can spend a lot of time in our heads and we forget about the resource of our hearts and really those emotions of gratitude, kindness, care, self-compassion, love, those inform, if we can tap into those during that information period, that can really inform then our decision making in a different way than if the sphere of influence remains fear and overwhelm and anxiety. So what we can do to get grounded, and HeartMath isn't the only tool, and you've referred to breathing. There are many, many tools out there. And I often pair HeartMath with some of those other tools for specific scenarios. Would
Yeah.
you like to do a practice for our listeners just so they have an idea of what HeartMath is?
I would love that. I was actually just going to ask you if there was like a simple technique that we could give to people. So if you want to share that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so this one is called quick coherence. So the method of one of these HeartMath skills is called quick coherence. And I will guide you through the steps. They're really simple. This does not need to be done. I will say this a few times. It doesn't need to be done with your eyes closed. It's very portable. It can be done while driving or while in and waiting in an office or while having a scan. I do want you to know that it's portable. If you are somewhere where it's safe for you to close your eyes right now, certainly not if you're driving and listening to this podcast, but if you're somewhere where it's safe to close your eyes, my experience has been is that it's a little easier to sort of catch hold of it when we kind of decrease the distraction around us. So, but that's up to you. So, if you are somewhere safe, you can go ahead and close your eyes. If not, go ahead and just do it with us, even if you're driving. So you're going to drop your attention right into the core of the chest, right around the heart. Really let your awareness settle there, coalesce right in the center of the chest. And then just imagine, this is step 2, just imagine that you're breathing in and out of the heart or the chest area, starting to breathe a little slower and a little deeper than usual. Not effortful. And step 3 here is to really breathe in the feeling of love, the feeling of care or gratitude. And if that's hard to just kind of do on command like that, which it can be, I want you to find something in your life, someone or something that you're grateful for, that you love deeply. Call them to mind. And then begin to increase the intensity here, just a touch to a point that's right for you. And then imagine that it's moving through your whole body. I like to imagine that gratitude's moving into all the cells and tissues and organs, the spaces that join. Increase your awareness of this inner state, this feeling of harmony between your body, your breath, your heart, your mind. And then you can open your eyes if they were closed. So I love to reveal the simplicity of it, but with that said, it does require practice. It's really interesting.
By the way, I feel very relaxed. So, all of you out there, if you are doing this driving, good luck. Because I'm ready to take a nap.
Yeah,
Nice and calm and
ready to
relaxed.
go.
Um,
Yeah.
But what I liked was when you said, I like to feel gratitude in like my whole body and my cells and organs and everything. I felt like this very like tingly, warm go through my whole body and like a smile on my face. I was like, ah, I feel it. I feel her gratitude.
I know, isn't it? So, and these practices again, so simple. I can feel that inner shift as well in my own being every time I do it. And what's interesting about the heart math research is so while you feel this shift internally, and again, it's measurable, they have technology to measure it. You don't need to, like, so Jesse just said you could feel it. You don't need the technology, you felt it. Um, what we would see though with the technology is that the heart rhythm begins to smooth out, like that
Hmm.
sine wave I was talking about. I've seen it so many times, but it's not contained within your own physical being. So the research shows that it's actually measurable, and they believe it's well beyond this, that about 3 feet out from your body, that energy. So you've picked up a vibe from someone before, whether that's a calming, nurturing vibe or it's a chaotic vibe. You can feel that around people. And the research shows that if you bring 3 people together who are practicing cardiac coherence, and a fourth person comes in who is unaware of what's going on, who is not in cardiac coherence, who has that chaotic rhythm, 75% of the time, that fourth person will be moved towards greater cardiac coherence without even knowing what's going on. And so I would love to start this movement about, let's all be responsible for our own 3 feet, um, to carry that out. But there's one further step too that I love to share with people, which is we're sending it to all of ourselves, and then we can actually share it and radiate it out into the world. And so it becomes just both a resilience builder, but it's also like an act of service. So you pick someone in your mind and you radiate them with love and gratitude. So sometimes if it's hard to do for yourself, you do for yourself, and then you try to share it out there.
I hear you say you radiate it out, which is beautiful because that's very powerful if you are doing this practice. And I'm thinking like in terms of somebody that is maybe in a treatment. I remember being in the bed, my husband was there sitting in the chair beside me, and I had different nurses coming in and out, or the doctors coming out, or whatever. I could utilize this, and truly, it will not just help me, it will help the room as a whole,
Mhm.
which opens the door for them as the practitioners to walk in the room and feel more calm and more present and more able to make good choices and helping you get through that treatment phase or that hour or those minutes sometimes. So if you're like you're saying, if you can radiate it out and you have my 3 feet is then going to intertwine with their 3 feet and help them feel like that is going to be a blessing across the board for someone, right?
It
Wouldn't you
is.
think?
It's so, oh my gosh, I've seen this happen over and over again, where I've worked with families to work together during these tough seasons. So often it's the case that whether it's the one going through the cancer journey feels like there's just nothing I can do right now, right? This is something that you can do, right, to share with others. And so often there's a parallel experience of families wanting to do something. We get this energy during these times of stress, and sometimes the most healing thing we can do is to be present, but not be present with, you know, inner angst, chaos, and overwhelm, but to be present with gratitude and love. And so this is something that I have worked with families to practice together, and actually nurses too. When I was bedside at Children's Hospital, to work with family, patient, staff, it's really powerful. Um, and it can be paired with, so when we think about things like coming into scans, for example, those seem to really increase anxiety, or waiting for results, or appointments, or in preparation for either surgery or procedure. We can pair HeartMath with positive intention and visualization. So whether, you have regular treatments, if it's chemo infusions and those increasing anxiety, getting yourself into cardiac coherence and then spending a little bit of time with positive intention. And we add in as many positive details when we do this together as we can, which is get into cardiac coherence, then I visualize like I've had a good night's sleep. And I get up in the morning with ease and I feel myself, imagine myself breathing deeply and easily, feeling gratitude, radiating that out. My commute is easy. I'm greeted warmly. The nurse is able to access, whether it's port access or a vein, it goes easily. And even if we're waiting for results, they're better than expected. So all of those possibilities are just as probable, if you will, as all of the negative stories that we can tell ourselves. And it's just really hard to create positive details from a place of chaos. And so using, pairing cardiac coherence with positive imagery is powerful.
In terms of speaking more directly to like a young adult patient who could sit one-on-one with you or listen to this as they are going through this season and implement these steps, as that young adult patient, I found that if I showed up every day during that time and after now, like just in my life, that's just how I've always been. If I show up more positive with a better outlook and I'm more calm, everybody around me, my 3 feet is expanding quickly because if I'm calm and then my boys are calm, my husband's calm, our home is calm, that's a much better day to move through that season than if it's chaos, 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 total chaos. You
Chaos,
know?
chaos, worry, rumination. I mean,
Yeah.
because we can get stuck there. This
Yeah.
is a way not to just break that cycle, but to really use to set a different trajectory in the experience of the journey. I fully agree. And little ones do learn this. They teach it a little differently with HeartMath. I want to throw that out there. If somebody has a little one at home that they want to do it with,
Yes,
they call
please.
it shift and shine. And so, instead of cueing the way I just did it, it's, this little one's imagining that they're in the center of their chest. It's like the sun, and they're shining those rays of sunlight out to, a sibling, a parent, a pet. It's so and they catch it so quickly.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
Kids definitely pick it up. And if they learn as a child, think about the impact that has as they grow, if they continue to have that as a resource and know they can go there.
Mhm. I do want to touch on one thing in terms of heart math and approaching things like scans or infusions, treatment. Um, Sometimes it's not helpful to tell someone to just calm down, to be calm, to be at ease. What I like about heart math is that we have the option here to actually have an increased heart rate. So these heart math techniques are independent of heart rate. So if you're the person that says, yeah, I can really feel like my heart rate's up, that's okay. We can use emotions like confidence. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be calm. We can use higher heart rate emotions to get us into cardiac coherence. So confidence is one that I use a lot. Or imagine, confidence in the treatment, confidence in the team, confidence in your family to stay present, confidence in yourself to stay grounded. Um, is just another one that I'll add in, especially when we're finding that the heart rate is up and up for good reason at that point.
Yeah. No, I love that. That is great. So I had shared a little bit about how personally my life had been derailed. We'll use that word.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Um,
It's a
but
good one.
how is there anything else we can share with people that can help them feel more grounded with everything in terms of uncertainty or unfairness or the maybe the question of like why me? Is there anything that we can give them that they could utilize?
Mm. Yeah, this one's powerful because, you know, The feeling of derailment is real. I think it's uniquely hard for young adults who are just beginning to sort of build and envision their lives going in a certain direction. And I think the cancer diagnosis can really upend that. And HeartMath offers something really, really valuable here. And it's a way to come back to your center. It's a way to come back to your center, even when nothing else around you makes sense at the time. So you have agency over your heart coherence. And in doing so, HeartMath calls it heart intelligence, your deeper knowing. And this can help you make more clear, empowered decisions about whether it's about relationships, because those can change during a cancer journey, about treatment, about your time and energy. So I like to think it, and HeartMath talks about this, is that you begin to respond to your life from inner wisdom, right? So even while many circumstances in life may feel derailed, it is about coming back to center over and over again. So when there are circumstances outside of your control, like your diagnosis, you can still influence your nervous system and respond to it. So I think HeartMath and certainly the cancer journey in particular really opens a door to authenticity, more purpose, more compassion for yourself and others. And HeartMath is a beautiful partner in that.
Mhm.
If that helps answer that.
And if someone's listening to this that isn't as into the wellness arena as some others, is there anything you can share with those people that can help them understand better what you mean to come back to your center? Is there anything else they can focus on to help them understand that? Or is that kind of just back to self, I guess?
Yeah,
That
I
would
think it's
mean?
a practice. Yeah, so so much of what is in this wellness space, I believe, and I'm answer this a long-winded answer, which I tend to be. Um,
No
you
worries. We
know,
love that.
yeah, okay. I think about answering that question from a formula. So when we think about all these practices, number one, we need to have an intellectual understanding. There's the information. We need some research and science to develop the confidence that we're even going to do it. Number two, we need self-understanding and self-awareness, and that comes with practice. As we do the practices, more self-understanding and awareness comes with it. We have to practice, 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 all these practices. And so without the practice, all you really have is self-awareness of, yeah, I'm really stressed right now and I don't know what to do about it, or I just have the information. So we need to practice. And as you practice, I think that's where you come to this greater understanding of what it means to come back to self, what it means. And so to really have a concrete experience of it. So whether that's with HeartMath, or whether that's with mindfulness techniques, or whether it's with relaxation techniques, something like guided body scans or guided visualizations, having these experiences that calm the nervous system, slow the train of thought. Those are what I think of when I mean come back to self. It's getting beneath the everyday mode of being, which can be a stressed mode. There's something else that's possible. And it's getting to that something else that I think of as coming back to self. And how you do that, there are many ways to do that. Does that
Was
help
awesome.
answer?
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah,
So,
I just thought if people aren't as familiar
mhm.
with wellness, I hope this podcast touches as many people as possible. So I always want to make sure that we offer that as, hey, if you're unsure about this, here's a little bit further on what we mean about that. So I think that was
Yeah.
perfect. That was beautiful. The other thing I know we've touched on a little bit today was little kids can use this, young adults can do this. And what we found dealing with Lending Hearts and with Vaso is I didn't realize being at 38, 39, I was still considered a young adult. when I was finishing my treatment. So that was a really interesting thing because you think young adult, I was thinking, oh, in your 20s,
Mhm.
you know.
Right, right,
But
right.
in the same sense, people that are older than or elderly could also utilize this practice. Really, this could be utilized for anyone, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there's no age limit on this. Like little ones too. And it's really powerful to practice together. It really is to just spend a couple minutes together and generate that cardiac coherence, whether it's with your little one or someone that's much older. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again,
You can,
I want to reinforce for listeners just that it's not about pretending to be okay, right? This isn't it, it is real resilience is the ability to feel everything. So to feel the grief, to feel the anger, to feel the sadness, but without losing that inner anchor. And again, that inner anchor can come from a number of practices to get you back there, but it's the experience of it. It's not enough to think about it.
Mhm.
HeartMath is just one way to get back to that anchor.
Because I mean, everything about life is real. It is all day, every day, right? So having these practices, I look at this as like a little toolkit for people. Here's just another resource. And specifically, being that you and I met through Lending Hearts, with that being an oncology foundation and offering these wellness options to the families, it's a blessing and it's for all ages and the family, which I think is so beautiful.
Yeah, at a time when often, the biggest question is, I just want to do something. What can I do? This is a something that you can do. You can access greater peace and strength even in the middle of chaos, and that becomes a source of strength, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you, your family, your friends, and even your medical team when you're in their presence. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It is. It is. To round out our conversation today, is there one thing that you wish every young person with cancer might understand when it comes to resilience and emotional healing?
Yeah, that just a few minutes a day can literally rewire your system so that you can not just bounce back, right, but that you can really become more resilient to what's going on. And as you do so, I've seen it happen over and over again. I really encourage you that if you're listening and you're interested in any of this, come practice with us through Lending Hearts. We practice on Tuesdays at 12:15 Eastern Standard Time. We run the courses several times a year, but you can become a more regulated presence for yourself, and you can look at your day in a different way. And I know that's difficult, especially when you're going through the cancer journey, but you can schedule in these short times and then begin to use them, more regularly throughout the day and have a different experience to be more calm for yourself and others around you. That's the one thing I want them to know. And I want them to come see us at Lending Hearts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And as someone that has walked this path myself, it works. And if you show up and you do the work and you're very conscious of it, you will thrive. Again, it's a season. I just want everybody to remember that hard seasons happen. And if you're hearing this and you're not necessarily in need of it in terms of, the specifics around the cancer world, share this information with someone that is. All of us know at least one person that has been touched by that world, and to give them these resources is so incredibly powerful. And that's your one thing you can do, is to share the information.
Yes. Yes, do it. And it's so powerful to practice together. It's really hard to do. These things are so simple, just not easy to do on your own. So come, let's do it together in community.
That's right. Well, Aimee, I want to thank you again for being here with everyone. Listeners, I hope you got so much out of this conversation and you will utilize this practice moving forward and share it with others. So, Aimee, I appreciate you again, and I hope you will come back and share another resource with us.
Well, thank you so much, Jess. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks.